If you're interested in education labs for kids, you really need to watch today's video. I had an interview with an expert on technology, education, and literacy, and I feel that not only did we have a super insightful and interesting conversation, but also a very important one. Why? Because information is power. It's crucial to learn more about these topics so we can, as parents or educators, make conscious decisions, better decisions about the technology we choose to use with our kids. As usually in life, not everything is black and white. Not all kids' apps are created equally, and there's also a dark side to some education labs for kids that you may not even be aware of. So I really want to invite you to relax, enjoy, and learn from today's conversation. Hello and welcome to the Learning Reading Hub. So today I'm really excited because I have a very special guest, an expert on technology and education, but not only that. My guest today is also an expert in phonics. In fact, she is the author of an amazing literacy curriculum. So get ready, we're going to learn a lot. Stephanie Marquez, thank you for being here today. Hi.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more about your background. How did you end up in all of these, technology and education and phonics?
Yeah, sure. So I have a pretty non-traditional background. I started in education as a tutor. I was raised by two public school teachers, high school math and high school English, and had vowed that I would never go into education because I struggled. I saw the struggles that they had every day. And they were fantastic teachers, and they're such an inspiration for me, and to see what the impact that they had on kids and all of that. But I just still, I saw what they went through every day and didn't want to do it. And then here I am on working in education, but on the other side. So that was, I love being on the product side of things. So I started as a tutor, got really into personalized learning, game-based learning, wanted to work in curriculum, and was really interested in the nonprofit space and policy. I wanted to work in education policy, that type of work. So got my master's degree at SC, I got my MPA, and through that had the great opportunity to start working for a wonderful startup called Game Desk. And we made some incredible game-based curriculum and never looked back. So started on the product side and just really got the bug and have never looked back. It's been wonderful. So that was ages ago now. That was over 10 years ago at this point. So it's been a great journey.
So yeah, lots of experience. Okay, so let's talk about the curriculum you authored a little bit more. It's called reading.com. The link to it will be in the video description for anyone interested in checking it out. I've personally used it with my youngest daughter, and it was really effective. There are videos of her in the channel using the app as well, if you want to watch them. Anyway, the unusual thing about this curriculum is that it's digital-based, 100% digital-based. And I've noticed there's resistance to this in some people. Not everyone has it, but some people don't want to use a digital-based curriculum. And in a way, it sort of makes sense when you think about it, because we are told we shouldn't use screens all the time, that we should limit screen usage, right? And in fact, I was a little bit on that boat myself before discovering your app, before discovering other good educational apps out there. You know, because up to that point, my experience with educational apps had been very disappointing, you know, planes, big promises. But then when we tested the curriculums at home, I realized they had addictive components, that they had lots of filler content to just keep children glued to the screen rather than educating them. On top of that, many times I wasn't even impressed by the curriculum itself. So I guess this is several questions in one. So tell me a little bit more. Do you guys notice this resistance to using a digital curriculum as well in some people? And how is it that you've managed to create this app that doesn't rely on gamification, filler content, or a very addictive reward system? All of the things I've mentioned, but it's still so engaging, so beautiful, and such a pleasure to use, actually.
I'm so glad. I mean, thank you for saying all of that. And that's like the holy grail of my career, like personally, is trying to achieve all those things that you talked about, which is avoiding all of those addictive qualities that can happen with screens, but still having an engaging experience and having the affordances of a digital environment make the learning experience better versus it just having it on a screen because you can, I suppose, like making the screen work for you and in the ways that it can be beneficial in a way that something that's paper and pencil can't. So anyways, all that, yes, we obviously we see we're creating software for very young children. So we see people who are resistant to screens, and we get it, like we understand why, but not all screen time is created equal. And we have, as you've pointed out, made some very conscious decisions about how we've designed our program to make sure that it is of the best quality it can be for, particularly for young children and for families, and it's beneficial for them, and it doesn't have any detrimental qualities. So the first being, we follow best practices. So Relooking, there's a great white paper that NACI and the Fred Rogers Center put out about 10 years ago with some best practices for app developers creating for young children. And one of the main takeaways was to have the experience be like co-play with an adult and a child. So basically that for young children, it's very beneficial to go through, you can go through an educational app. And when you go through it with a parent or a caring adult, just leading them through that interaction, that's where they get the benefit from it, as opposed to it being very passive and they're just like watching a video or, something that's very receptive. And the other piece of that, and then there's also, was it Psychology Today a few years ago came out with a similar report that said that apps are 19 times more effective when they're done with an adult. So that's why our lessons, right. So our lessons are specifically designed to be co-play, which sets us apart from the other apps. So we understand that there's a time and place if you're at a restaurant, you're on a plane, you're in the car, whatever, and you want to hand a tablet off to your child and have them play something that you feel good about. And there's a time and a place for that. And we do have some reinforcement games in our app that are meant for a child to play independently, but the bulk of our program, the lessons are for an adult and a child to use together. And it's a very special experience for both parties. And it's beyond just an educational thing. It's also a bonding time and all of that. And it seems like you experienced that with your daughter as well. So that's very important to us. And the other piece that you brought up about not being addictive. So it's really easy to fall into some gamification techniques just for the sake of them, right? To just have it be trying to keep the child in the app, trying to make it addictive. And we wanted to steer away from those things for two reasons. One, we just didn't want it to have that sort of negative aspect to it that happens with some screen time, right? We didn't want to have that, but we still want it to be engaging and exciting and for the child to want to do it. So we still have those, we have some pieces, but it's important for us that the reward system in our app, it's an intrinsic reward system, and that it's inspiring the intrinsic desire to learn and to love reading versus having it be like you're just, earning stickers or stars or coins or whatever so that you can, dress up an avatar or whatever. Correct. Like we don't have any, there's none of that fluffy stuff. So it's,
yes, you've won this, you've won that. Yes, you can now play this. And it's overwhelming. It drives them crazy. It does drive me crazy as well, actually.
Right. So it drives kids crazy. I mean, it really gets, all of us, right? Like people love their little mobile games and, we get into that kind of thing. So it drives kids, but it also makes it about that and not about the learning. And so for us, it was about making sure we wanted to foster the sort of, in addition to teaching the skill of reading, it was about fostering a love of reading. And studies have shown that if you do an extrinsic reward system with reading, it's a detriment to that process of learning to love to read, because kids are smart. They know that if you're trying to incentivize them with, stickers and stars and money and pizza parties or whatever you're doing to try to incentivize them to read, they realize that you feel the need to do this because it must not be fun. Like they must not want to do this. This must be something that's a chore. And
Yes.
so it shifts the perspective, whereas we want to have it be the reward is the reward is the reading. So for us, you earn a book, you earn the next book, you can go to the next level, you can play a harder level in the games because you've acquired more skills. So it's about fostering that intrinsic desire to read and learn more.
Yeah, 100%. It makes so much sense. And they want to finish as quickly as possible, in order to get to the game. So there's no point in doing that, like for me, it's a no-no. So there are games in your app and we've used them, but it's always after the lesson and they have educational value. So the curriculum is based on the most up-to-date research on what's best for learning to read. So that is phonics, the science of reading, all of that, but also the direct instruction model to teaching reading. So why did you decide to use this methodology? Maybe you can explain a little bit more about what that means.
Yeah, so the science of reading all points to direct, explicit phonics instruction. Synthetic phonics instruction is the best way to teach children how to read. So that is the approach that we wanted to take with this program. And the other piece of it that works nicely with what our goal was here is we were creating a program for parents and caring adults to teach their children how to read at home without having any prior knowledge or skills or not having any of that background. So, and not needing to give them, a long or onboarding where you have to, read a whole book or do a whole thing or prep all this stuff. We just want you to be able to get right into teaching your child. And so having that direct instructional method allowed us to have scripted lessons. So we can provide the script for that grown up so that that takes all the guesswork out of what to say, the sequence to do it in, how to give feedback, all of that. So we provide that format and that structure. So it really kills two birds with one stone, where it's the most effective way to teach, and it also makes it convenient for somebody who's coming in without that background to be able to just pick it up and do it.
Well, Teach Your Child Reading 100 Easy Lessons is another very popular curriculum.
Yeah.
Curriculum that uses the direct instruction model to teaching reading, and it's again follow a script. It's very, very detailed, but you have to say even the corrections have to be set in a very specific way. So I guess that's kind of the model if people are familiar with that curriculum. Anyway, I think I know the answer, but I'm gonna ask you anyway. Why did you decide that the instructions should be read by an adult, by an actual person, rather than the app itself? I know the answer, but anyway.
Yeah, I think it's about having it right. We were talking about having that direct instruction, and as wonderful as AI is at so many things, right, at helping us be more productive, and it has a lot of problems with it too. But there is something about the connectivity of a real human, of a caring adult sitting down with a child and giving them that bonding experience and giving them that instruction versus just hearing it passively, like listening to it passively from, a voice on the device. And then same thing with, speech recognition and all of that is getting better, certainly, but being able to give appropriate feedback to a child about what they might be struggling with on a particular letter sound or blending or whatever. The AI is just not quite there yet. And even if it was, it doesn't have the same emotional impact for a child. Whereas sitting with somebody a caring adult, there's this beautiful, special time, this quality about it. We hear that all the time from our users where, especially if the child has siblings at home or something, this is something where they get, mom or dad or grandma or their nanny or whoever is doing this app with them, they get this special, 20 minutes a day that they're sitting on the couch or in their bed or they're sitting together and they're doing this together, and they wouldn't get that type of unique experience where the child is very focused. They're really excited about doing this with their grown up. They're excited to show them what they know. They're excited. It's a different experience versus interacting with an AI on a screen. So for all those kinds of reasons, that's why we avoided that model.
Yeah, no, I get it. And I like it that way. And I feel that sometimes children actually like to learn because you care, because they want to make you proud in a way. So there's something very special about doing it that way on one-on-one settings, because we haven't mentioned that, but these lessons are one-on-one with an adult.
Yes.
So can a child start completely from zero, or is this app maybe more for children that already know a few things like letters or the sounds, etc.? And up to what level does it take you?
Sure. So children can absolutely start from scratch. So we teach letter names and letter sounds concurrently with other phonemic awareness skills and phonological awareness skills, and we get into blending fairly early. So even though we're still teaching letter sounds, we're still getting into other skills as we go. So anyway, so yes, kids can start with no letter knowledge, or they can come in with some existing skills. We have a placement assessment that people can take right away, and then can put them, place their child further ahead in the program based on their existing skills. And then the program ends, we have 99 lessons, and it ends at about roughly like a late first grade, early second grade reading level-ish. So around that place. So it's great. I'd say it really helps kids get through that first grade full year. Getting into starting second grade is really kind of where we leave off.
Where you get the foundational skills, basically.
Right. And we would love to expand beyond that. We'd love to get the rest of second grade content, some, move into third grade. That's the dream, but we're not quite there yet.
Little by little, I guess.
Yes.
So now I'm going to share with you my 3 favorite features in the app, and maybe you can extend on that, the purpose they fulfill, the logic behind them, and maybe you want to add a few extra features as well that you really love. So the first one is the sliders. They are amazing. I know what they are based upon, those arrows and dots under the person words, but I think the digital version is great. It's probably better than the paper version. The alphabet sum is really catchy, so beautiful. I like it myself. And the third feature that I really like is the code reading experience. I think it's so smart, especially when you're starting out. So those are my 3 favorites, as I said. So do you want to extend on the logic behind them and maybe add a few more?
Yeah, sure. So the sliders are certainly what I think we're most proud of. Yeah, our whole team, our product designer is a brilliant guy and helped us come up with that. We worked, for ages trying to really narrow down exactly what that experience would be like. And we're so proud of how it's turned out. And it's, it's a pretty known technique, like you said, to, put your finger under a word to try to, parse out the letters and give you a tactile experience to sound it out. But again, like I was saying, with the affordances that you have with a digital space, we can have it be even more tactile and interactive, and highlight each letter as you're going along, or highlight each grapheme, right? So the child can really see the breakdown of the word as they're trying to sound it out, and have that interactive tactile thing. And kids love it. And it's so, not only do they love it, it's fun for them to use, but it's so useful for them. It opens up, there's so many, we've heard countless stories of, kids who were just really hitting a roadblock with not being able to break down letter sounds and words, being able to blend, and then they get to our sliders and it's like it just opens up. They totally understand. They understand it now. They understand what they're trying to do here. So again, we really thought very carefully at the beginning of the development of this program, being okay, here's a skill that teachers use all the time, that people are using in a classroom, that this is something that people are trying to do in a non-digital environment. How can we both mimic it and enhance it? What can we do in this digital space to make this even better and really get to the crux of what you're trying to do here as, teaching this child? So that's how the sliders work, and we love them so much. And the song is so yes, the song is the best. We love that. It's still we still sing it all the time in our house. Yeah. But the whole part about it's not a traditional alphabet song because it does the letter names, but it also does the letter sounds, and it does vocabulary with the beginning sound, the word with the beginning sound of that letter. So, and it's kind of unique vocabulary. So it's catchy. It helps the kids really, and because we repeat it at the beginning of most of our lessons, it helps kids just really solidify the letter names and the letter sounds together so that when they get into maybe some of those tricky letter sounds that they either haven't learned yet or have struggled with, they can refer back to that part of the song to help them through. And it really does work for that. Like we hear that all the time, that, parents will, if there's a kid stuck on something, they kind of go through the song and try to, and pick it right and can remember it. So, And then the last piece you said was the co-reading experience. So yes, so our early books, so we have 60 books in our program, decodable texts, and the first, I think 14 or so are co-read, meaning that there's text for the grown-up to read and then there's text for the child to read. And it allows us to have decodable texts for the child, but having a richer story, right? Because the grown-up is providing a little bit more of the story and the child is reading the words that they can read at that point that they've learned how to decode. So it provides that. And it also allows again, for that sort of bonding experience, right? Of like, we're doing this together. Like here's the parent is modeling how to do reading and then giving a space for the child to be successful as well and to do it together as a team. And then it ramps up, right? So those books really allows the complexity of the books to start small for the child and then ramp up over time. And then eventually we take away that co-read and now the child has enough knowledge to be able to read a decodable text on their own with a full story. So, yeah.
You want to add a few more, or you think those three are just fine?
I mean, those are...
We're really proud of.
I mean, the other piece I think I'm most proud of with our program is that in our books that they are interactive, and we hide the images from the child until they've read the text. So that was really important for us to think about, again, what can we do in a digital space that's very difficult to do in an analog environment, right? So when you're reading a book with your child, they see the picture and you're trying to cover the picture to see if, so they're not guessing, they're not just looking at the picture and guessing what the word is. And they're trying to, this hides it from them digitally so that they're really pointed at, they're focusing on decoding the words, and then interacting with the picture and revealing it is like a reward and it's fun. So now it makes it interactive. It's fun. Now they get to reveal the picture. So it serves two purposes, where it has this very strong curricular purpose, but then it also makes it more interactive and fun also. So, I mean, it's like, for me, that's like the best you could, like, for making for doing like game-based education and play-based education, to have it do both those things, like be the better thing for the curriculum and also be more fun, is like the best.
Yeah. And they have this picture in their head or how it's gonna be, and then oh my God, this is so funny. I didn't expect it that way. Yeah, right. It's really good. It's really good. You guys are smart, because these decisions are really difficult to make. So yeah, well done. I'd love to be in your brainstorming sessions and see how you come up with these ideas. Anyway, have you done any study around the effectiveness of the app?
We haven't done a full-blown efficacy study yet, but we do have, I guess what you would call it. We have like an efficacy white paper that we had a research firm do for us. And it talks about the validity behind the research process that we use to develop the program.
Okay, perfect. I'll make sure to include links to all of that as well, because people might be interested. So, and do you know if it's good for children with special needs? For example, children with dyslexia?
Yeah, so we didn't, like I said, we don't have any specific numbers on that yet. Like, we don't have hard data on that yet. However, anecdotally, we hear all the time from users will write in that their child has ASD or dyslexia or ADHD or any number of learning challenges. And our app is so helpful for them. For dyslexia, like I said, our wonderful product designer created a unique app or unique font for our program. So to make sure that it was as clear as possible for people with dyslexia. And then the other aspects of our app that we just mentioned, where it is engaging but not overstimulating, where we have these little bite-sized learning components, other pieces like that really help. We've heard have really help so many kids who have some other learning challenges, like helping them stay focused, helping them stay sort of understand what's going on and grow in this way over time. So anyway, we've heard that it is quite effective, and we're so happy to hear that. Like, that's just wonderful.
It makes sense. I mean, because it engages so many senses at the same time. And I know dyslexic kids learn a lot through engaging all the senses, kinetic experiences, all of that. So it does make sense. Okay, so now you're launching a version for teachers, but taking into account that this is a tool that you're supposed to use one-on-one, how are teachers going to use it? Is it more for tutors or interventionists, or do you have any case studies to share with us?
So we've so like I said, when we originally created this program, the target audience was for parents and guardians to be using this at home. And then right after we launched, we just had teachers clamoring for this. They wanted it in their classrooms, and we were kind of surprised. We were like, oh, great. Like, we would love to hear about how you plan on using this in your classroom. And we have heard from a lot of like reading specialists, interventionists who are, ones who pull kids out from classrooms and are using this in either a one-on-one setting like that, or small groups, especially if the kids are one-to-one with devices in their classrooms, then they can use this in a small group setting. We don't quite have the ability to have it be very functional in a whole group setting yet, but even a traditional classroom teacher, we've heard from some kindergarten teachers, first grade, who do small group stations, things like that, who are figuring out how to use it in their classroom in that way. And a lot of teachers and administrators and things are figuring out how they can send this home, so they can use it as a collaborative tool with parents at home. So maybe the school will pay for a bunch of licenses and then have this sent home, and then the teacher can use it as they want in the classroom, but then also have coordinate with the parents through the teacher account, all of that, to be able to continue that work at home. So great. It's great to see that educators they love it. They see what we're doing. They're like, great, this like aligns with my curriculum. This aligns with our scope and sequence. Totally get what you're doing here. I can figure out how to incorporate this either in my classroom or send it home, or however we're going to do it. So it's nice to see.
And how is the teacher's version different from the parents' version then?
Yeah, so right now, our kind of V1 of the teacher edition, it was getting the curriculum out the door exactly how it is. So the curriculum is exactly the same. We have a web-based teacher portal, which is unique for the teachers. So they can log in online, and then they can add classroom students. They can manage far more student licenses. They can, and they also have the freedom to place each child student wherever they want to in the program, to target particular skills or whatever. Whereas the parent program has to go through the scope and sequence, has to go through the sequence in order. And there's a limit on the parent version for 3 child profiles. Obviously, teachers are going to need more than that. So it's more the administrative stuff for the teacher side. So it's allowing them to have more freedom over placing the students and being able to manage larger classrooms and student accounts and all that.
Okay, makes sense. Why is it that you decided to go for parents in the first place rather than the other way around? Teachers first, parents later.
Yeah, I think we can get to sort of the story of the development of this. Was our CEO, Austin Butler, wanted to teach his own son how to read, was teaching his own son how to read at home, and ran into all of the same pain points that anybody else would trying to teach, realized that there wasn't a very engaging he was finding these books and they weren't very engaging. They were rather dry, or this wasn't, there wasn't a good scope and sequence. These weren't comprehensive enough. He was just kind of running into all of these issues and realized that there was a real opportunity here to make something a lot better. And with his experience running our organization for this long and knowing that he's got this team of very talented developers behind him, and he could really make this work. So it was for him, it was about let's try to solve that particular pain point of people trying to teach their kids to read at home, knowing that teachers have a whole bunch of other resources to them and they have formal curriculums and things, but this was just about hitting that particular user base. So that's why we started with that. And yeah, it's been great. It's been great to really solve a problem that people have that it impacts a lot of families.
Yeah. We all go through that when we try to teach our children to read. There's a lot of confusion. Not all the materials are good. So I can totally relate to the CEO of the company. Yes, I've been through that as well. So what other things do you recommend in addition to using the app? Because the reason I'm asking is that I have the feeling that when you are teaching your children to read, you can use an app, you can use a curriculum, but it's one of those things where you kind of have to change your entire mindset in a way, and you need to start incorporating literacy in everything you do in your everyday life.
Yeah.
So reminders about letters, singing songs, reading stories at night. Otherwise, it doesn't fully work. So do you have any suggestions to share with us about what else can we do?
Yeah, I think you just kind of hit the nail on the head there, is that you shift your mindset. I think it's funny, one of the best things we can do as parents is to model the behavior we want to see, right? So if we want our children to be interested in reading, then we need to read around them, right? Show them that we love reading, that this is something that we enjoy doing. We talk about it with our partners or anybody, who's in the home. We make reading a very exciting thing that we want to share with them, that we want, so it's about modeling that behavior, creating really good spaces for reading in your home if you can, being surrounded by good books, things like we talked about reward systems, right? So if you use some kind of reward system in your home for whatever, chores or what have you, having books be the reward, right? Like, so if you use, if you make that part of your lifestyle, that it becomes more desirable, and that children will want to learn more. And like you said, and then incorporating those, trying to think about how you can incorporate literacy into your everyday life. So, encouraging your child to find, look for words in the world and point out letters, and asking about letter sounds, and playing I Spy, and all those kinds of things. So it's a lot of little things, right? Trying to make it a part of your lifestyle a little bit more. And we have a tendency as adults to be so much on our phones and our devices, right? And it's about maybe taking a step back
as well, right?
Right. So it's about taking a step back for us too, which is good for us, right? We all need to do that too. Take a step back from our devices and things like that, and think about how we can read books, or if we're on devices, making sure that we're reading, right? If we're reading ebooks and things like that, and showing that what we're doing, demonstrating what we want, the behavior we want to see.
Totally. And once you're into this, they start to point at letters like, Mom, this is the letter L.
Right.
Oh, yes. And they get so excited about that. And yes, so it's kind of a mindset. Everything changes when you're teaching your child to read.
Yeah.
Anyway, in this day and age, I think there are just so many options when it comes to educational apps. I think it can be overwhelming for many people. We are deeply confused, both parents and educators. We don't really know how to evaluate an app properly. So what makes a good educational app in your opinion? Can you make sure a little checklist for us?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this, and I'm a bit more snobby than most.
Okay.
when it comes
I
to
like that.
educational apps. That'll be
Too much
right.
into it. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's too much. Yeah, it's what I do every day, so I'm
Mm-hmm.
very particular about it. But
Your standards are high.
yeah, but I think it's important. You're right. There's so much garbage out there. Unfortunately, there's just a lot of stuff that isn't
Mm-hmm.
very high quality, and I think it can turn people off to it, right? Where people will say, like, I don't want to use this with my, like, this isn't quality. I don't want to use this with my kids. And so it is difficult to sift through, separate the wheat from the chaff, as they say. So
Yes.
I'd say the first thing to look for is that you want to find something that has really quality interactions that require the child to actually apply their skills in some way versus just passively like receiving information. So you want something that has some real interactive quality with some kind of feedback. So it's giving the child some sort of application. It's requiring them to use their skills in some way. You want to check that it's research based if possible, that there's a quality foundation behind the educational piece components of the app, that it ideally has a published like clear scope and sequence. So you can see it's not just like a bunch of stuff and you're just sort of, you're just supposed to expected to just kind of like meander through a bunch of things and I guess that will do something, that it has a clear scope and sequence and a development of skills, progression of skills. And then one of the things we talked about earlier is sort of avoiding the gamification for gamification's sake, where it detracts from the learning objectives of the program and it just becomes about that and not about the actual learning. So I think that's the thing to look for there. And then obviously basic things, ad free, make sure it's safe, all that kind of stuff. And then lastly, I'd say see if it has some personalization. So if, like we have a placement assessment, so the child can start a little bit further ahead. If it has any kind of adaptivity or, uses any kind of personalization that helps make the experience unique for your child, I think is another marker of a high quality program.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Very useful. Okay, so I'm aware of the time we have, so let's change the subject a little from the app and technology. By the way, the link will be in the video description. They have a free trial. And by the way, before moving on, maybe you'd like to talk about the price structure before we move on, about the cost of the app and all of that.
Sure. So we have, for parents, we have a monthly or an annual subscription option. So there's a 7-day free trial, and the monthly is $12.49 a month, and the annual is $74.99. So that's for the parent accounts. For teacher accounts, there's a 30-day trial for 3 students, though you can request more students in that free trial if you wish. And then there's only an annual option, and there are price discounts for more than 30 students. So if an administrator is, trying to get for a whole school or something like that. So that's the price structure there.
Okay.
And
I mean, as mentioned, you have a free trial, so everyone can just take a look and see if they like it. So changing the subject now, maybe we can talk about the situation with literacy instruction in the US and in the English-speaking world in general. It feels to me that it's been very convoluted and it's changed a lot lately in the last few years, actually. In fact, when I was teaching my first child how to read, everything was based on sight words, like lists and lists of sight words that they had to memorize. And the phonics crew, we were just a minority, to be honest. And I feel that there's been a lot of change in just a few years, at least around the awareness of the importance of phonics. I'm not sure if it's just me, that I live in my own little phonics bubble, but I feel it's going in that direction. So in your opinion, what's the situation right now?
Yeah, it is I think you're spot on, where I think researchers have been beating the drum, and certain subsects of teachers and administrators and things have been beating the drum for probably decades now, but nobody's been listening. Right, but it's in the zeitgeist now. It's happening where there's a lot more awareness around the science of reading, meaning that body of work in all different areas that is pointing to how the brain actually learns to read, and that is through systematic phonics instruction versus what you're referring to, like whole language learning, and balanced literacy was the big one for many decades. So now as that research is taking hold, people are aware of it, really want, teachers are such amazing people that want to do what's best for their students. That's why they go into that work. And so they oftentimes are that's what they want to do, what's best for their kids. And so if they're learning that what they've been using for sometimes decades is not the most effective method, they're anxious to make the change. That being said, I mean, it's always hard in a school environment to shift to a new curriculum. You have a lot of things coming from the top down. So what curriculum is being purchased by your school, what's being passed down by your administrators, how you're being trained, all of that. So it's always a slow ship turning to get districts and schools to change in the US, but it is happening. That everywhere. Movement is happening. Yeah. US problem, yes, like you said.
Yes, we used to live in Australia, and it was the same thing.
Right.
Yes. My first daughter started with sight words. It was kind of a balanced approach. And then my youngest ended up with phonics. But it was kind of mixed up with sight words as well. It was a little bit weird, but it was phonics based. And they bought a whole set of quotable books with changed the curriculum from one year to the other. So kind of happening across the board in English-speaking countries.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is happening that way. And in some places it's shifting faster than others and all of that. So it's certainly that movement. I'm sure, I don't know if you've spoken about this already on your channel, but the Soul to Story podcast was like the most eye-opening.
That is, I linked to
wonderful. So yes, I mean, it's what, I have no affiliation with it. I just,
no, me neither.
Just a big fan. So it is really illuminating about the entire decades-long system and then how it's being exposed now.
The queuing system, it goes through everything you need to know. So yes, it's a really good resource. And do you have any more tips for educators maybe transitioning into phonics? Because I think they might be very overwhelmed. As we've just said,
the
first system changes and they have to quickly adjust.
Yeah, I mean, I do not envy teachers in a classroom trying to figure this out right now, to be honest. Like, this is I feel deeply for them. This is a very challenging moment, especially if they don't have the buy-in from their administrative leaders in their schools. It's going to be really hard to try to make that change in their classroom. But I think it's about maybe just pushing, if the curriculum doesn't have solid phonics instruction, which many of them don't, trying to push for some supplemental curriculum that you can use. Teachers are very good at accessing resources. They're handy people. So trying to find those resources that they can use and find a good scope and sequence that they can follow within whatever system they're using in their classroom. But yeah, I think it's about just trying to do what's best for your kids. And so advocating as much as possible in your situation for an appropriate curriculum.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's all for today. At least those are all the topics I wanted to go through. We've learned so much and it's been super insightful. Unless you have anything else you'd like to add to the conversations.
No, I think this has been great. Thank you for having me. This is such a great conversation.
Oh, thank you for being here today. Thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah, thank you.